For 3 days, the leaders of the Tour de France have tried to hide in the big field as they've traversed the south of France in the heat and humidity. There'll be no hiding today. The riders leaving Perpignan, they'll top 9 mountain passes as the race goes back into the big climbs, this time the Pyrenees. The high spot of the stage today on the road to Andorra is the Port d'Envalira, 2,407 metres. They'll finish on a climb as well, high above the city. Will Miguel Indurain lead tonight, or will Tony Rominger put in the challenge everyone expects? Stage 15 at 10 o'clock this morning. The riders rolling away from Perpignan, heading towards Andorra now. 143 riders in the field. And this first day in the Pyrenees, not for the nervous. The riders starting with the big climb of the Col de Joux, taking them up to 1,513 metres. The first category climb that follows is the Port d'Envalira, which takes them into Andorra, the highest road today at 2,407. Then it's on to the second category, Col d'Ordino at 1,910 metres, and finally a climb to the finish of 1,840 metres. And Stephen wrote this morning, well, he's becoming a journalist in his last Tour de France. He writes his own column now in the Francois newspaper.
Once more a sunny start to the day, but as the race heads into the Pyrenees, the clouds will come down, bringing down the temperatures too, with a 15 degrees Celsius high. The westerly wind will be very tough over the top of the climbs and slow down the riders on the descents.
And this is a puncture. Well, it looks like a puncture. In fact, the mechanic is not taking his wheel out. There's a problem with Tony Rominger's rear wheel. And the mechanic, well, he seems to have solved it and is quickly pushing Rominger on his way again. Climb the Col de Joux, 1,530 metres. This is the first serious attack of the day. Oliveira Rincon. Heading up here, Leonardo Sierra, the only Venezuelan in the race, and the third man on the attack is Richard Vironk. And now as they come over the top of the climb, 65.5 kilometres covered, Vironk in the mist takes it ahead of Rincon and Sierra. And the attack by those 3 riders, forcing the Banesto team to try and limit their gains. At the moment, they're 6 minutes ahead. And they're climbing now the Col du Primerens. 169 kilometres covered. Rincon takes the top, Sierra is second, Virenque is third. So the riders continuing to be pursued by the whole of the Banesto team here as they now go on to the Port d'Envalira and the entrance into Andorra. And now the 3 leaders are in Andorra. They're on to the big climb of the day, the Port d'Envalira, and there we are, 52 kilometres still left to ride, but the gap is coming down. They're not panicking too much, they're keeping their tempo going very well, and in fact the fine climbing here, especially by Oliveira Rincon, has now lifted him up into second place in the King of the Mountains competition. It's just as well, in fact, that Tony Rominger has been snatching the best of the rest places on the climbs, otherwise he would have been out of that polka dot jersey today by this attack.
Well, it's an excellent attack that started early this morning with one of the Festina riders. The Festina team is actually registered here in Andorra, and this is Richard Vironk, another wearer of the yellow jersey in the Tour de France last year, and he gave it up to Pascal Lino, the winner of yesterday's stage.
And this is Eric Boyer. He's just a little bit ahead of the field. He broke away on the last climb, the Col de Primeron. And in fact, the field have lost sight of him for the moment in the mist on the lower slopes here of the Envalira Pass, but I don't think he's going to go very far, Paul, because they keep him in sight on the slopes here.
This, in fact, is Jean-Francois Bernard, followed by Gérard Rouet, Julian Gorospe, all the Banesto riders at the front. Miguel Indurain, well surrounded by his teammates today, and most of the main leaders of the Tour de France in this group. Gianni Bugno there in the white jersey of the world champion. Tony Rominger's not far behind, and in the middle, Miguel Indurain, the man they all want to try and knock off the top spot.
Here's the border now for the chase-up. Eric Boyer, lovely crowd here. There was one stage today when we really thought they wouldn't be able to close these roads. There was such a traffic jam trying to get off the road and down into the few side roads off this mountain where they could park the cars. As we now go back here up to the leaders and see Rincon keeping the pace sensibly so at the front, because there are still 2 very, very nasty climbs to come. as the three leaders now come through the cloud line, and you can see the lovely peaks of the Pyrenees here, and indeed you can see the cloud level as well. We're hearing on the radio at the moment, Jean Daujva is in this group. This is him in the left of our picture. He's up here as the policeman. As the rider who's broken away at the moment is Franco Vona, the forgotten man of last year's tour, lost in the euphoria of the great ride at Sestria by Claudio Chiappucci and the challenge by Miguel Indurain, because he finished second on both Alpine stages and he hardly made a headline. Now he's breaking away again as we go into the Pyrenees.
We've also been joined by Antonio Martin from the Amaya team. Again, a policeman who won't do much work because they have a man in the lead, and there in front, not very far away from them, is Eric Boyer. That might be a good move for Eric Boyer if this group gets a chance to move clear, because after the top of this climb there is a very, very long descent down into the city towards Andorra before they turn off on a steep climb, the Col de Orindo.
And now the bunch has jumped onto the back of those four escapees, leaving just the three men out in front. There's the top of the Col today, or in the Spanish version, the Port. And it looks like this wonderful escape, which went right out at the beginning after a small attack by Charlie Motte, who was quickly caught. The breakaway started to form on the Col de Joux after 48 kilometers. Virenque was first over the top there, and they've been in the lead ever since. And when we get to the top of the Col d'Onvalira, then they'll be thinking more or less of the finish. 1 kilometer to the summit, and Richard Virenque is setting the pace. Sierra comes through on his wheel, and then quickly followed by Rincon, now second overall in the King of the Mountains. He'll climb a little bit more closer to Tony Rominger. If he wins this climb here, Rominger has to be content with the lower places, but again I think it's Franco Vona having another go here. Remember, he's on the same team as Zenon Yaskula, third currently in the Tour de France. We haven't seen him all day. Vona trying to attract the attention perhaps of Indurain and draw him out, but Indurain not taking him on yet.
It's a good move by Vona. He did this last year a couple of times, as you said, in the stage to Sestriere and then the stage to the Alpe d'Huez. A very strong rider in the mountains, not renowned as a real climber, but as a strong man who can stay away from the main field if they just give him a little bit of a chance to get it out of sight, out of mind.
Well, this time he's gone alone. Maybe he can snap the elastic. Tries to find his rhythm. He's sticking very tight to the crowd on the left of the picture, hoping that his jersey will merge with them and that the riders won't quickly spot him slipping away. Abelardo Rondon now also trying to get away. One of the Gatorade riders on the team of Gianni Bugno. He's now having a go for the finish. But the gap is coming down. These counter-attacks are having a great deal of effect on the leading group as we go over the top of the Col, and it is in fact Sierra's turn to take the victory from Virenque and Rincon, and the gap, Paul?
The gap now is down to 3 minutes and 10 seconds, so it really has tumbled on that final climb there, on the climb there of the Col d'Onvalira. It really is coming quite dramatically close together, and I think on the next climb, when we go to the Col d'Ordino, we could well see Franco Vona coming up to these three riders, but it's coming quite rapidly up behind as well, with the main field lifting their pace too.
And so Franco Vona, now the fourth place rider on the road. It's something like 3 minutes ticked by now since the other three riders have gone over the summit. And Vona, stage winner, double stage winner last year in the Tour of Italy. And now coming up to go over in fourth place, but the time gap has reduced dramatically. It's not quite 3 minutes yet. And on the right there, the riders have been pedaling now for more than 6 hours. 2 minutes, 52 seconds for Vona. And this will be Rondon, Abelardo Rondon, who's going over as well. And he's just behind, so he'll be in fifth place. So they are the first five riders over the top. The main field are coming back as well. 3 minutes, 20 seconds is the gap now as the three leaders race down the climb here in Andorra, but there are still two more mountains to come. We'll take a break. First full day in the Pyrenees today, and when you left us they were about to climb the Col d'Ordino, and this is what happened. Oliveira Rincon broke clear on the climb and went over the top, 1 minute and 15 seconds ahead of his erstwhile breakaway companions, Richard Virenque and Leonardo Sierra. And then chasing them together was Abelardo Rondon and Franco Vono, 2 minutes 5 seconds down. And further back, the main field going over, led over by Tony Rominger and Claudio Chiappucci, closing in all of the time, 2 minutes and 58 seconds. And the bunch now, well, the time gap as they start the finishing climb with 10 kilometers to go to the finish, more or less the same here. The peloton being led by Gerard Rouet, the teammate of Miguel Indurain. You can see Indurain there too in that yellow jersey. They're still timed at 2 minutes and 50 seconds off the lone leader now, and it is still Oliveira Rincon, who has moved into a clear second place overall in the King of the Mountains. Only 50 points behind the leader, Tony Rominger, now, and that's coming from nowhere today. And what a superb piece of riding. Under the 10-kilometer banner here, Richard Virenque, approximately 1 minute and 20 seconds down as the main field, and you can see now they're down to just a handful of riders, 35 riders in this chase group. The situation today at the start of the race was that 143 riders were on the start line. 3 riders that we know of have given up, but many are trailing. Jim van der Leer, Francis Moreau, the World Pursuit Champion of a year ago, and surprisingly this Olaf Ludwig has gone, the winner of the stage a couple of days ago at Montpellier. The average speed so far, 34 kilometers now, pretty slow, but it's virtually all uphill today. And the average speed of the Tour still on a record pace, 40.622 kph. The leaders at the start of the day, Indurain in yellow, followed by Rominger in the polka dot, and Abdu Japarov in green, and reportedly riding well off the back of the yellow jersey group here of Indurain, but only about 6 minutes behind at the moment. He'll be happy enough with that today. Now, Paul, the question is, do you think on this last climb that the yellow jersey can get back up with this group?
Well, at the moment, the way that Rincon is climbing, he's actually going away from everybody. He's a superb climber, one of those riders, along with Alvaro Mejia, that the Colombians have been looking to take over the reins of the Colombian cycling since the departure of Fabio Parra and Lucho Herrera. At the moment, he's in fact increased his lead over the 2 chasers to 1 minute and 30 seconds. And in fact, the gap is just coming across now. It is 3 minutes to the yellow jersey group that Gerard Rouet is actually leading here at the moment. So he's going away from them. He stands an excellent chance, as long as he doesn't crack towards the top, of taking the stage victory.
Gerard Rouet, the workhorse, and there's the time checks going back, and you can see the bottom figure says PEL 3. That means the peloton 3 minutes, and they're telling the leader on the road now, and he's taking a good, clean, hard look at that. And I think the news will be interpreted as being very good indeed. These are the next 2 riders on the road, but Sierra now is very, very tired. It might well be that they will be picked up by this leading group here.
Well, the 2 chasing riders now have been picked up by the other 2 chasers who we'd forgotten about for a little while there, Alvarado Rondon and Franco Vono. So now we have a 4-man group chasing the lone leader, Oliveira Rincon. But still, I think the way that Rincon is riding at the front, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to come back, although we do have a Colombian chasing a Colombian, so that might be a little bit to his detriment.
Let's go back up to the leader. This is Oliveira Rincon. A lot of people fancied this rider before the start of the Tour de France to be the big surprise. He's waited and waited and waited, and today he's given us a superb demonstration of his great climbing skills. Literally climbed from nowhere in the King of the Mountains competition up into second place, and there's still 2 more solid days in the Pyrenees to come when he could well challenge Tony Rominger for his leader's jersey. It looks now indeed as though the chase group has splintered. Sierra's been in trouble a lot of times. Now he's cracked again. He's slipping away from that group we saw a few moments ago was compact. Richard Virenque is hanging on in there though and doing a great ride, inspired by the fact his team is registered here in Andorra. And the big boss of the team has been on the race these last 2 days. We had a stage win from them yesterday with Pascal Lino, and now a good day out up front for Richard. There's the face of Indurain. Tells you nothing, does it? He just sits there. He hardly appears out of breath. I often wonder what he thinks about when he goes out for these daily rides in the Tour de France. The others are always moving around, out to the saddle, swinging the bike, but Indurain just sits there.
Extremely large group still left today after the mountains they've been over. I'm somewhat surprised that there was no big attack by Tony Rominger's team today to try and split it up. But I think in the back of everybody's minds is the 2 very hard days that we have after the rest day tomorrow in Andorra, which are supposed to be absolutely incredible, and people feel there will be bigger gaps on those two Pyrenean stages than there were in the Alps. That's Franco Vona who's gone clear from this group, the man who started the attack a long time ago at the Col de Omvilaria as we went over the top into Andorra, and Alvarado Rondon is unable to follow the pace set by Vona. Richard Virenque is just happy to stay with him.
The cream of the Tour de France in this leading group. One or two big names missing though. Eric Breukink certainly out of the Tour now. Olaf Ludwig, who had visions of the green jersey in Paris, but he's gone today. And now the cracked legs of Leonardo Sierra, and there he is. He's back in the fold for the first time in 185 kilometers over some tremendously cruel roads today. Let's hope he's got the strength now to just tag on to the back of this group of around about 30 riders. 4 kilometers to go now for Franco Vona here.
It looks very much to me as if Franco Vona is going to get another second place on his palmarès.
Indurain now has got back to the front. Bjorn Ries is the rider on the left of our picture.
This is the first time I've actually seen what approaches a grimace on the face of Miguel Indurain. He's looking very, very concentrated today. I think earlier on he was suffering a little bit, and he said towards the end of some of these mountain stages he's been having a hard time, and I think in the days that will come he will show that he's a little bit scared of Tony Rominger.
And this now is the leader of the race coming up the mountain, and I don't think anybody's going to catch Rincon now. He's done a marvellous ride in the true spirit of the Tour de France over the Pyrenees as we go back to the chase group, and Rominger now will test Indurain, but Indurain, Paul, is right there.
He was straight away. Rominger will try, and he'll try every day when we go uphill. The acceleration there brought Alvarado Rondon back into the group, and Rominger looks over his shoulder to see that the reaction came straight away from Miguel Indurain. But look at the pressure. As soon as these men accelerate at the front, it splits the race completely.
They were all hanging in there thinking we're going to make it, and the gap just opened with the pure acceleration of Rominger. But Indurain had all the power he required. He just slipped it up a gear and was immediately on the wheel of Rominger. So too, for that matter, was Mejia of Colombia. Well, the 2 days in the Alps brought together these three riders. Here they are again, the same three men, the polka dot jersey of Rominger, who won both stages in the Alps. He's not going to win the first stage in the Pyrenees, that's for sure now.
One man who slipped away after that acceleration there is Zenon Jaskula, the man who's been hanging on to that third place overall at the moment. Now Rominger carry on. He will know that Jaskula is no longer there. Chiappucci is there. Mejia is there. Barney Rice is there. And obviously Miguel Indurain in the yellow jersey, who has got no problem at all.
And 1 kilometre to go for the leader of the Tour de France today, but not the overall leader, just the leader on the stage. This is the select group behind. Chiappucci's been caught on one leg, but he's at the back of this group. The man who's missed it, Zenon Jaskula, and here comes Franco Vona. He's been caught now, and so they're all coming down except the one man who is surviving with a breakaway that's lasting the best part today of 200 kilometres. Where do they find their effort from? And the relentless tempo being set now by Tony Rominger.
But as we come up to the finish line, it's going to be a wonderful victory for Colombia.
Indeed it is. 7 hours and 20 minutes in the Pyrenees today, most of them uphill. This rider was in the lead for about 6 hours on his own, I think. Up goes the jersey, and now a victory for Oliveira Rincon of Colombia today. He gets the victory, and he deserves it enormously for a marvellous attack. He went clear in the end on the penultimate climb, and he held on to the finish while they swept up everybody else that followed him. Now Indurain is again leading as the little man Claudio Chiappucci moves up on his inside. Watch out, Miguel, he's not going to wait for you. Claudio Chiappucci puts in the attack. Indurain tries to take his wheel and does. Rominger into third place, Mejia fourth. Then Bjorn Ries comes up in fifth. Jaskula is sixth. Martani is seventh.
Well, that was a superb little move by Claudio Chiappucci, and another move by Tony Rominger going down the left-hand side. But you see straight away, Miguel Indurain manages to respond, and the man who seems to me who's going to be very dangerous in the next few days, Alvaro Mejia, responds every time to the attacks of these two riders, and I'm sure when we come to the next two Pyrenean stages, he'll be a man to watch for something special.
Well, Chiappucci always looks as though he's struggling, but he's hanging on in there, and he's going to have another go. He moves up on the right. These are the stars of this year's Tour de France. We're looking down now on the men who have captured the leading positions overall, and this is why they climb the mountains so well. If only Chiappucci could ride the time trial, he'd have won this Tour de France probably a couple of times, but he can't, and therefore he can't win the Tour de France. But now the attack by Bjorn Ries. Look at this. Well, this is the find of this year's Tour de France. Up goes the gear as Bjorn Ries goes for home. He's being chased by Rominger, who feels the mountains are his this year. Rominger drops it up a gear, and as they come round, it looks as though Rominger might well come up Bjorn Ries's wheel, but I don't know. Bjorn Ries is looking across at him. No, he's beaten Ries. Rominger will get second place today, and in third place is the Danish rider Bjorn Ries. Fourth, I think, is Jaskula, and fifth will be Indurain, and sixth Mejia, and seventh, as the riders come over the line, that will be Gonzalez Arrieta. And that's the order of finish over the line today in the Tour de France. Here's the lone figure of Robert Miller, tailed off in the last couple of kilometres of the final climb today, when he felt there was probably nothing for him, maybe just to save energy for what might come in the next two stages in the Alps that begin the day after tomorrow. And here's a rider who's lost more time, Gianni Bugno, the world champion, the clock ticking on the left at 3:26, which means he's lost a good minute again to the men that matter in this year's Tour de France. Quite clearly now, all that's left for Bugno is a possible stage win later on. And this is Andy Hampsten riding. Well, this is the first blow to a leader today. Hampsten 6th overall this morning, 4 minutes 7 seconds down tonight. But that's on the leader of the stage, so he loses 2 minutes to Indurain. And a great victory for Colombia. They've promised it, and now it comes here, the first day in the Pyrenees. Olivero Rincon winning the stage today in 7 hours, 20 minutes and 19 seconds, ahead of Tony Rominger, who gets second. Bjorn Ries is third, Zenon Jaskula is fourth, and Miguel Indurain takes fifth place. I'm not surprised on the podium today that the happy smiles are all on the face of a Colombian rider. Overall, though, there's no change at all. In the end, all of the men that mattered finished in that leading group. The top 5 riders staying exactly as they were this morning, so they arrive at the rest day now with the same time gaps. They're going to have to decide how they get the better of Indurain when they start off again from Andorra the day after tomorrow. Indurain takes on another new yellow jersey, and he will have the pleasure of going training in that tomorrow. And the green jersey safely in as well, 21 minutes after the winner. Shamaluddin Abdou-Japarov, though, lives to fight another day. All of the results, as always, on page 350 on Foretel. News of our quiz tomorrow, so pens and paper ready. And by the way, if you do want to ask any technical questions of myself or Paul Sherwin, here's the number you should ring, 071 631 4444. We will have a programme, although the riders have a day off, and we'll be back as usual tomorrow evening. We'll look back on the second week of the Tour de France. Until then, goodbye.